Begin chapter. Sheila's sister died at the age of 49. Even after surgeries and therapy, she lived only briefly after being diagnosed with highly aggressive cancer. Sheila's sister had no signs of neurofibromatosis, but we wonder from time to time if she might have had something similar to Sheila's tumor. There appears to be a genetic link with phenochromosarcoma tumors. Genetics. This is one more thing for my children to keep in the back of their minds when considering any type of operation in the future. Sheila and I learned quite a bit about neurofibromatosis since she first had her birthmark start growing when she was pregnant with Sarah. We knew that San Antonio was rich with doctors who have a depth of knowledge about this genetic abnormality, and we knew that the CAT scans, MRIs, and doctor's appointments were going to be a way of life. With our newfound knowledge, we were still unprepared for the events to which our next child would introduce us. In 1996, we found out that our third and final child would find her way into the world. What type of response do you have when you see the hand of God in your family's life? I have seen it occur quite a few times, and I recall two such experiences with my father. One particularly lunchtime. When I was 16 years old, my mother asked me to drive out to the field to get my father, who was cultivating on the north end of the farm about a mile from our house, for lunch. I hopped in the pickup and headed towards the field. As I approached the field where my dad was working, I noticed ominous dark clouds rolling into the area, and then, suddenly, a single lightning strike. The tractor stopped, and my father slumped over the steering wheel. My dad had been struck by lightning. The lightning strike had knocked him out. I ran to him as he started to revive, his pant legs on fire. We beat the fire out, he gathered his composure, and we started the tractor to make sure it still ran. And finally, he got into the pickup for me to drive home. On the way, he said, "Don't tell Mother. This will upset her." "Are you kidding, Dad? How are you going to explain the burnt pants?" Of course, I was going to tell her. What 16-year-old seeing his father struck by lightning and surviving was going to keep quiet? If the lightning had struck where he was at the end of the field, the cultivator shanks would have lifted out of the ground. Would he have survived? Thankfully, he suffered only superficial burns on his right leg. I was so very grateful that he was in the small tractor with all of the cultivator tools securely pushing into the dirt, as it most likely allowed the lightning a direct pathway for my father into the ground without a serious amount of resistance. He was lucky. We were lucky. Or did the hand of God play a role in his life that we simply assumed was luck? In 1980, another incident with my father made me reevaluate whether luck or providence was a factor. My father was employed in the construction of a new bentonite plant in LaCroix near Thermopolis, Wyoming. Whenever crop prices were not high enough to pay all farming expenses, Dad worked in the winter. He was quite skilled at welding and was working as a mechanic, so he had no trouble getting a winter job. At the time, I was working in mining operations of the same bentonite company, hauling bentonite to Greybull while the Crewing plant was on construction. I quit college 2 years before and was trying to talk myself into going back. At the time, I was spiritually listless and without much direction. Much like the bentonite plant building under construction, empty except for the mess inside, I was merely a shell of the person at the time. The plant's construction was underway. The dryer, a great big tumbler that people could walk into, had not been placed yet. The mills were not online, and the cement floor provided storage for scrap metal and rebar. Only maintenance and construction workers were allowed inside the building during this hard-hat construction phase. My father was welding, standing on a catwalk near the top of the building. He stepped back, loses his footing, falls about 3 stories to the cement below. Dad recalls yelling, "God help me." The response was instantaneous. The response was profound. The response was absolute. My father said he felt as if he were riding in the palm of a great hand. He landed in the only clear area large enough for his body, landing between scrap metal and rebar. As plant employees were running to him, one was calling 911 for help. Dad got up, brushed the dust off his pants, and smiled. He was uninjured. There were no broken bones, no scratches, not even a bruise. I think everyone was shocked, including my father, that he survived the fall. I heard about the incident on the two-way radio and rushed to the plant. An ambulance was there, as the supervisor insisted the paramedics check him out. He was fine. An event like this leaves an important imprint on the soul. Dad survived, and my life changed. A prayer was answered, and I reminded that there is indeed a benevolent God in control of everything. I should not be surprised when it appears that the hand of God plays a role in my life. I should expect the unexpected when it happens. Well, that isn't always so. I, like so many other individuals, get caught up in the world's concerns and problems. All too often, I fill my mind with doubts and forget that wondrous things can and do happen. It is pretty amazing how often God reminds us that He is in control and how often we fail to put our trust in Him.